For the first time since 2011, Oklahoma takes on Missouri, but who comes out on top? And no longer a Big 12 rivalry, but an SEC one. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, breaking down everything that we will see this weekend at Farote Field as the Missouri Tigers play host to the Oklahoma Sooners. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below, and smash that subscribe button because this is your number one source for all things SEC moving forward. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems, Apple, Spotify, Newswork, whatever you see fit. Make sure that also you're following us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. To keep the back and forth banner going alive and well, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter. Follow Dave at Mach10 Sports and check out all our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This preview is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Look good, feel good this upcoming winter/fall, whatever you see fit on game days. With RHOBACK.com, use the promo code SECU. The fall foliage is around the corner. The weather is changing. That means you got to get more pullovers, more jackets, more hoodies. Guess what? RHOBACK got you covered, and he's got you covered also for the perfect Christmas gift for the loved ones or enemies in your life. Go to RHOBACK.com, use the promo code SECU for 20% off. Tell them the fine folks at SEC Unfiltered sent you. Dave, this is a rivalry renewed, just like Texas versus Texas A&M. There are bad blood between these two squads. It has been building up for months on end, all the way since the Caden Green transfer, and now it is culminating this upcoming weekend out in Como. It's a big one. It's a very big one, not just for bragging rights, but also bowl eligibility could be on the line for Oklahoma. Given their schedule at the season's end, they're feeling pretty confident after the performance they just saw from Jackson Arnold, but they have got to be able to secure a win against who they believe is the little brother. Meanwhile, Missouri, they're just trying to prove to everybody that they still belong in the college football playoff hunt.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Caden Green got announced. I saw it announced today. He got benched. So that adds a little more dynamics in the left guard spot. The Mitchell Walters kid getting the start over him. So you're right. That added some dynamic to that whole recruitment process. Hey, what do you think here, Cole? I mean, this is one of those games. It's wild to say the way we've talked about Oklahoma this year, but if Oklahoma wins, they're bowl eligible. I mean, again, this ain't making anybody forget what's happening. Again, I think two things can be true at once, and that's something I think not we, me and you, I think we, when I say this universally, struggle as a world to accept two things can be true at once. That, hey, they've had a bunch of injuries, but also at the same time, you've had injuries all year and you haven't really adjusted if you're Oklahoma. I know you got rid of Seth Luttrell, but hey, got in the win column last week against the Black Bears from Maine. Can you take it on the road? Can you show some improvisation, some creativity offensively, even though it might not be there? For Missouri, I mean, dude, could this be maybe the most flawed 9-3, 10-2 team ever if this were actually to go? Again, I think that trip to Columbia in a couple of weeks, Columbia, South Carolina, the team, granted, Missouri's never lost to, but still, that'll be a tough trip. I don't know if you'll get there. But this game, from an overall perspective, I mean, I think both teams fan bases feel a little underwhelmed with both these teams so far, if we're being honest. But I think a win this weekend would maybe put a little bit of a Band-Aid on it and be like, all right, like if I'm an Oklahoma fan, okay, we've had a bunch of injuries, we made the change at OC, but we still got to a bowl. Again, Oklahoma has way bigger expectations as a program than just getting to a bowl game. I'm not saying that, but when you factor in everything, that wouldn't be the worst case, and you still got multiple games to go tack on some other wins as well. But getting to 6 this week would be key. For Missouri, I mean, dude, if you could do this with Drew Pine, which I think is going to be tough, which we got to talk about here in a minute. What if Brady Cook playing? We don't know. I don't blame Eli Drinkowitz for not telling anybody. I feel like this is a weird league. This is a weird year, Cole. This year's been like the secret quarterback thing. Nobody talks about it. I get it. It's a gamesmanship. You don't want to let them prep. But still, I think big game here. I know it's not championship aspirations. I guess technically, I mean, why am I saying this? Missouri could still get in the playoffs. Unless the chaos broke out. But if they finish 10-2, they're going to be in the conversation. So all's not lost. It's just, hey, Missouri's going to be a little bit in what Oklahoma's had to experience here if Drew Pine's having to go. You've had 2 weeks off the bye week to kind of get in your bag here if you're Kirby Moore and Eli Drinkowitz to kind of come up with some kind of offensive system. It looks like Nate Noel will be out again. So we'll see. I think this is when coaching comes in, where we see who is the better coaches across the board, because both teams aren't going to have their full stable of weapons.
Look, here's the deal. At the end of the day, Oklahoma certainly did not live up to expectations in year one of the SEC, but they can go ahead and puff out their chest and say, well, At least we beat Missouri. They're still the same old Mizzou that we once played. So there's at least a little bit of confidence going into that. I think if you're Missouri, you understand that you're a flawed team. Yes, you're bowl eligible. Yes, you're still in the hunt for a 9-10 win season. Yes, you still can technically make it to the college football playoff. And I'm not giving up on my Tigers. I still believe that we have something brewing out in Como this year. But unfortunately, you live and die by quarterback. Right now, it does feel like that quarterback conversations regarding their health has more secrets than Watergate back in 1976. So it's like, yeah, you look at the status of Brady Cook, it's going to really make or break this team. They went to Drew Pine last week or 2 weeks ago when they played against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And what was so funny is I was talking to one of my buddies who went to Mizzou and said, the only beauty about Drew Pine is that he throws such errant passes that they're uninterceptable, only to then throw 3 interceptions against Alabama that allowed them to coast their way to an undefeated to coast their way to a shutout. So if you are going with Drew Pine, do you feel confident enough in a stable run game headlined by Jones and headlined by Marcus Carroll? Because it does feel like Nate Noel is going to be out for this week. And do you feel like that you have weapons that can at least open up small little creases that give you the opportunity to put yourself in third and manageable, put yourself in a great situation where Kirby Moore can get into his elements and start opening up the playbook and put himself to where it's a fresh set of downs? Time of possession could be really big in this game. Turnover margin is going to be massive, but I think time of possession for both of these squads, especially with knowing what both of these defenses have done at this point, tiring them out is going to be the critical word, I think, for the winner of this game.
No, and Cole, I think you nailed it. Turnovers is going to be massive in this game. It's going to be massive, especially if it's Drew Pine, Jackson Arnold, who I think give the edge. Obviously, I think most people would agree with this. If you're talking about those specific 2 quarterbacks in Jackson Arnold, Drew Pine, got to give the nod to Jackson Arnold. I know he hasn't been great this year, but you do see the raw ability. Having about 2 weeks probably prep for this game. I know they weren't on a bye week. They got the win against Maine, the Black Bears this past week. But I do think this is where you could see, I mean, if you're Joe John Finley, the interim OC, you got nothing to lose, dude. You're not getting the coordinator job here. I mean, Brent Venables could love you to death. Joe John, you played at Oklahoma when Brent Venables was there, granted as a tight end, but still, you were on the same team, probably loves you to death, hired you on your spot. From a perception standpoint, he can't hire you as the OC going into a big year 4 for him next year. So he's going to go out and find somebody, but here's your chance to maybe go get an OC job somewhere potentially, like where you're actually calling it, not just a title to give you a little bit more pay. Be aggressive, man. Again, tell Jackson, hey, we can't turn the football over because that could get us beat. That's how you get beat against a Drew Pine-led Missouri offense without Brady Cook, is if you're giving them short fields. But I would take some chances. I mean, if you could get up, Cole, 2 scores with that Oklahoma defense against a Drew Pine-led Missouri offense, you'd feel really good. I don't care where the game's played at. You feel, if I'm Oklahoma, I may want to get up a little 2 scores and zig when everybody else is saying zag and not just play real conservative and be like, hey, I don't think against our defense you can go score 3 touchdowns against us, because I saw the way you played against Alabama in that second half. And to an extent, he almost single-handedly cost him the game once Brady Cook officially went out with the wrist injury, the hand injury that he had to go get x-rays on.
Well, I mean, he kind of did cost them the game. I mean, it was at one point 13-0, and then you get interception after interception that lead to 2 scoring drives. Now it's 27-0 before Justice Haynes runs it on in for a 35-yard score. The problem is that, again, when you look at what Mizzou is, they're more than just Brady Cook. They have weapons. They have Luther Burden. They have Theo Wease. They have Mookie Cooper. They have Marquise Johnson. They have Brett Norfleet. They have Marcus Carroll. They feel good about Jones as their third string running back. So the offensive line is going to be massive in this game, protecting Drew Pine if he is the starter. If Brady Cook somehow plays, the over-under for me right now is if he can go about 60%, you need him out there. Because if 60% is better than having Drew Pine throwing into triple coverage that eventually leads to a turnover and gives Jackson Arnold a short field position to where all he's got to do is pick up 2 or 3 first downs and settle for a 45-yard field goal. Like, that might end up being the difference in this game if you're just throwing pick after pick after pick, and it becomes a concern for you moving forward. But at the same time, we also know that Brady Cook is going to be dealing with this lower body injury, this ankle injury for the rest of the year. Ankle injuries, they don't heal over time. So you are going to be limited as a runner. You are going to be limited inside the pocket. Can you deliver clean strikes? And if not, do you have a game plan? Jackson Arnold, let's talk about him for a minute. Really good game last week. And I get it. It's Maine. I understand. Nobody's going to put too much of an emphasis in, but still 74.1 completion percentage, a passer rating of 192.5, 3 total touchdowns. Second game in a row that he has been in that he has not had a turnover. That's really big. That does well for your confidence. And it also allows you, I think, to take that next step in the proper direction to where you start to feel a bit more confident in yourself delivering those strikes down the field. What's going to be really interesting is to see, do you get back at Nick Anderson? Do you get back at Deion Burks? Deion Burks was supposed to be a game time decision last week, ended up being rolled out. So it does feel like he is inching closer to being back. That might end up being a difference in this game, especially when you're getting up against a wide receiver that isn't going up against Toriano Pride. That may open up the passing attack. Same thing with Jake Roberts, same thing with Bauer Sharp. He had an overall solid day to where it does feel like, once again, you're seeing the things that we believed in a guy like Jackson Arnold when he was coming out of Denton Ryan High School. If he can have a strong performance, no turnovers, clean, concise passes on third down, deliver passes that will eventually set you up in great field position, I think that this is going to be a game where even if you have to go and win by field goals and maybe one touchdown, it might be enough depending on what you got on the opposing side for the Missouri offense.
No, you're right, Cole. And I saw Brent Venables say in his press conference, Jaleel Farouk, who broke his foot against Temple to open up the season, and Deion Burks were running around at the end of last week. And I would probably say they probably give it a go, probably on a little bit of a rep count, but I do think they would probably give it a go. And I think another thing to factor in, it hadn't been great this year. And Missouri's run defense is pretty solid, so it's nothing that you think you're going to be able to just Bill Beatonbow and the boys roll out there and think we're just going to run it down these guys' throats. But Kevontae Barnes did have over 200 yards last week. And it's like you said, Cole, I mean, you prefaced it like, hey, hear me out. I know it was Maine Black Bears, the fighting Stephen Kings. I say that because that was his alma mater. But, I mean, he had, 18 carries for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. Can they get that running game going to help Jackson Arnold? So I think that's something to keep an eye on, too, from an Oklahoma offensive perspective going against a Missouri defense that I think is solid in the run game a little bit, but I think they can be had if you get in the right schemes and run some duos and combos and stuff on the interior.
They currently rank top 10 in pass defense. They're 54th in run defense. They've allowed this year an average of 4.4 yards per play, 10 touchdowns on the ground, and over 130 yards per contest. So if there is a way that you can win against Mizzou, it's putting yourself in a prime position to where you get a couple of quick strikes, whether it be to J.J. Hester, whether it be to Bauer Sharp, whether it be to a Deion Burks being back fully healthy, and then trusting a Javonte Barnes, trusting Gavin Sawchuk if he's able to play, even trusting Jackson Arnold with his legs to be able to pile drive it in for a touchdown. And that might be all you need. Defensively for this game, I think for a guy, for Corey Batoon, it's about pressuring this offensive line, however you see fit. Because you got to remember that Jackson Arnold, even though he didn't have a turnover against Ole Miss, he did get sacked 9 times. He didn't have a turnover against South Carolina when he came on in. He had a touchdown pass. He was sacked 8 times. This is not a good offensive line at all for Oklahoma. In fact, it's one of the worst I have seen in the SEC. Not in terms of this year ever. It is one of the worst offensive lines I have ever seen in the conference. So if you are Corey Batoon and you can find ways to send design blitzes, whether it be from the linebacker spot, whether it be from a stunt with a defensive end working his way back up, I think this could be a game that does extremely bode well in your favor, because Jackson Arnold, as much as I believe that he has turned the corner, as much as I want to believe also that he is the right fit for this team, it's so hard to get a gauge on what his potential is when he's constantly under duress and when he constantly is feeling the pressure up front.
Yeah, I agree. Once Jacob Sexton went out against that game against Ole Miss in the fourth quarter, it was all downhill after that. You're right. In pass protection, they really struggled. I thought Jackson Arnold was pretty good, though, in picking up the yards in front of him, and he needs to continue that Saturday night. Like, he wasn't designed runs, but I think sometimes everybody just wants to be that pocket guy or make plays with their arms outside the pocket. It's like, dude, just go take a lesson from Vanderbilt. I know it's part of their system, but just kind of stay ahead of the chains, guys, and it makes things easy. I thought Jackson Arnold did that early in the first half in Oxford.
When you and I always do shows together, we always break down 1 or 2 players that we believe are going to be the differences in this game. I will start off. I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit for this one when it comes to Oklahoma. It's Jackson Arnold, plain and simple. If you can find ways to evade the pressure, if you can find ways to take sacks and still deliver clean strikes down the field, I feel like that you're the better quarterback. And honestly, Brady Cook at 60% may not be the same quarterback that he is the way that Jackson Arnold is at 100%. So regardless of who is playing, you know that you don't have a healthy Brady Cook. You know that you have watched this year Cook overshoot Luther Burden, Marquise Johnson, Theo Wease. It's a bit concerning. And even though I believe that my Tigers are going to find a way to be able to make this thing close, even with Drew Pine, Jackson Arnold, this is a game where you get to show out and prove to not just yourself and the coaching staff, but Sooner Nation, you're the dude. Because if I can promise you this, if you beat an old rival and if you beat them to oblivion, if you find a way to basically bend them over a barrel and spank the living crap out of them, they'll start buying stock in you again. And then going into 2025, you will be viewed as the guy for the long term. So Jackson Arnold for me is the easy pick.
I'm going to go with Big Deuce, baby. I'm going to go Javonte Barnes. I think if they can get a running game going, which is easier said than done, but I do think that is the weakness of the Missouri defense. I think if they can get the run game going, again, it's not going to be for 200 yards like he did against Maine because obviously Missouri's personnel, their coaching staff's better than what Maine has. But I do think that would alleviate a lot off Jackson Arnold's plate. I think that could allow him to maybe make some zone read calls where he keeps it if people are crashing on Javonte Barnes, if he's having success on the interior with duos and combos on the interior of that offensive line. I get a weird feeling Javonte Barnes has a good day. I think he's kind of the X factor there for Oklahoma on Saturday night.
I'll make this one quick for Missouri. It's going to be Johnny Walker. I think that he has to have a great game. And the main reason why is because of not only does he lead the team in sacks, but at the same time, he also is the dude that I think has to be able to get the pressure in the backfield on Jackson Arnold, have him throw into the middle of the field, have him throw off his back foot, have him throw across his body to where Corey Flagg is sitting and waiting at the second level of the defense, where a Toriano Pride can come up and make a big time play, where a Newton can make a play. Like that's what you're looking for at this point, because when you're able to pressure a young quarterback that has to move and is under duress, he is going to make critical mistakes in environments like Farote Field. It feels like if you can get him down, you can easily not have to worry about your offense. This may be a game where both defenses have to play better than ever just to be able to walk away with the dub.
I'm going to go the low-hanging fruit on this one. Drew Pine goes, I think it's on him, man. It's kind of going to go back to the bye week a little bit. Drew Pine / Kirby Moore / Eli Drinkwitz, where it's, hey, what kind of game plan can we – like what they need to figure out these last 2 weeks they had after the Alabama game. What are Drew's strengths? What can we adapt in here to protect him? And what can he do to help us go drive and win football games? Because you mentioned it earlier, Cole. They have weapons. I think Nate Noel will be out, but they do have weapons in Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, Josh Bain. I mean, they have a pretty good receiver core. I mean, Mekhi Miller, Marquise Johnson. I mean, I keep naming them. They have good receivers, Brett Norfleet. Like we mentioned it, there's stuff to work with. It's just don't put him in a situation where you know he's not going to succeed. I think it's kind of what you did 2 weeks ago in Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa. Again, use Luther Burden in the Wildcat if you have to. I don't even know if our guy Drew Pine has to consistently play quarterback. Just mix it up. But I do think it starts with him figuring out a game plan. So maybe even a little more than Drew Pine. It's, hey, what if Eli Drinkwitz, what has Kirby Moore gone and gotten their bag from this bye week? How can they set him up for success to ultimately set up an offense that has weapons to go be a decent offense? And like I said, Cole, nobody's going to be great with their second, third string quarterback in the country. Most teams are not. And before anybody says Ohio State won a national championship with their third string quarterback, that's an exception to the rule. There's exceptions to every rule out there. But no one's going to have success with their backup quarterback, like championship level success with their backup quarterback, third string quarterback. But you can definitely help him out with a good game plan.
I'm also going to throw two more to watch in this game. It is going to be Zach Schmidt and it is going to be Blake Craig. If you don't know who those are the kickers. Honestly, you may be winning this game with just field goal after field goal after field goal. One kicker, Blake Craig, currently has a 65.2% field goal percentage. When you look at a guy in Zach Schmidt, he came on in since the Auburn game. He is currently 100%. His longest kick of the year so far is a 44-yarder. So this may end up being a game that goes 12-9 if it has to, because the defenses are playing well and the offenses just completely suck. All right, Dave, let's lock in some predictions. This is going to be a good one. Rivalry renewed. Kickoff at 6:45 Eastern, SEC Network. It's only a 1-point spread in favor of the Tigers. Who you got?
Again, it's going to come down to turnovers. It looks like it's going to be Drew Pine, unless something amazes me. But with the high ankle sprain and the wrist hand injury he suffered, that was ultimately kind of to throw the white towel in from a Rocky movie standpoint that Eli Drinkwitz did against Brady Cook in Tuscaloosa, kind of got him out of there. Who knows about both those injuries? Vegas kind of feels, I think, a little bit how we're feeling in this one. I just trust Oklahoma's defense more, and I trust Jackson Arnold more. I think this game is legitimately just going to come down to turnovers. I think you make a good point. Both field goal kickers will be very important in this one. Have to convert when you get your opportunity. Both kickers, I'm talking to you. I just think this is simple. I think this comes down 2 turnovers. I think Drew Pine, again, has 2+ turnovers because I think that's just kind of who he is. It is what it is. And I think surprisingly, Oklahoma gets the run game going. Again, not to the extent they did last week, but I do think they rushed for over 100 yards, and that is why they have a little bit more success on offense than people are anticipating. It's a solid defensive front with Corey Batoon in them, but I think this is just a turnover game. This is a very 2+2 = 4 game. Oklahoma gets their 6th win with 3 more opportunities to go in front of them to go keep adding on some potential wins, or 2 more. Sorry, so they got a bye week at host Alabama and then finish the year at LSU. Maybe they try to go steal one, get 7 wins there. Be shocked if they got both of the situation. But if they could go steal one, you get 6 wins, you're going to a bowl game. I know the 15 extra practices aren't what they used to be because you don't have the same roster. But hell, when you factor in the injuries, firing an OC, if you can get to 6 wins in your first year in the SEC, it's not the standard. But hey, you got to look at it both ways here.
Missouri to me is the better team. Oklahoma has talent, but Missouri to me is the better team. If I go top to bottom, look at this unit. Offensive line, I'm taking Missouri. Wide receivers, I'm taking Missouri. Defensive front, I think I could lean Oklahoma. Linebackers, definitely lean Oklahoma. Secondary, I lean Oklahoma, but I do like everything I've seen from both the front 7 and the secondary of Mizzou. Kicking game, I probably lean Missouri simply because of I know what I'm getting in a guy who has made a 57-yard field goal this year. I feel good about Missouri being at home. I feel really good about where Missouri is coming off of a bye week. And I do think that, again, Eli Drinkwitz is doing everything possible to salvage a season. And even though they won't be viewed as a top 12 team, 10-2 in the SEC, 10-2 in the race for a college football playoff berth, with how much parity is in this sport right now, especially with the ACC, especially with the Big 12, especially with what we don't know about the Big 10, who are going to be their representatives. Missouri can still get in if they're 10-2. I left off one specific position. Quarterback. I don't trust Drew Pine. I don't. I can't trust Drew Pine. It hurts me. If Brady Cook is playing in this game, I take Missouri, and I think if they not only win, I think if they cover by at least a field goal. And no, it's really hard. It's only 1 point. But if it's Drew Pine, I saw too bad against him when he was against Auburn. You watched as Brady Cook had to get dialed up with some Percocet and duct tape to basically come back in and throw a couple passes to lead the comeback on homecoming. I saw what happened when we were in Alabama. I just can't do it. I can't. As much as I want to believe that you can trust Luther Burden, you can trust if a Nate Noel is out there fully healthy, a Marcus Carroll, I believe that Missouri is the better team. I believe Oklahoma has the better quarterback. And at the end of the day, that sometimes is all you need to guarantee that you walk away with the win. I'm going to go 23-20 final score. Oklahoma secures bowl eligibility on the road at Farrell Field. It pains me. It honestly sickens me as a Mizzou bandwagoner. I truly think that this team can be special. This is a team that I do believe is better than advertised, but you can't tell me to put money and faith in Drew Pine leading this charge. It's impossible. It is literally impossible after everything I have seen up to this point. I'm not saying that Jackson Arnold is elite by any means whatsoever, but imagine if you put Jackson Arnold in in Missouri's offense with their personnel. Would that not be a team that you would fear on Saturdays? It'd at least be one that you'd have to respect. I don't know if you can respect Drew Pine right now. He has looked awful. He has shown you nothing. Jackson Arnold over the last few weeks, even when under duress, has shown you more than what Drew Pine has. For that reason, give me a 3-point lead, 3-point win, bowl eligibility to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I should have gave a score too. I'm going to go 2014 Oklahoma. I said Oklahoma. I didn't give an official score, but I'll go 20-14.
Unfortunately, Mizzou faithful, this is where the college football playoff talks come to an end. But what do you have? Am I wrong? Is Dave wrong? Can Drew Pine actually be the guy to lead you to victory? Or is Oklahoma going to at least go bowling underneath Brent Venables in year 1 in the SEC? Let us know in the comment section down below. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Follow us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. MIZ, Boomer Sooner. Give us a damn good game. Peace.